Okay.
Start over, John.
Oh, man, hey, you got such a boy. So I think this is a significant one though. Thank you is generally looking in what direction in terms of time?
Yeah.
Fast, right? You can say thank you in advance. Right, but then you're specifying thank you in advance. And same thing, saying, please forgive me for what I'm about to do.
To get you on the hook.
So I mean, but sometimes it helps people just be ready. What are you gonna do? I'd really rather you forgive me in advance. Yeah, usually you kind of look in the past, or I forgive you especially. If you're looking backwards. I love you, I think is a very much future-oriented thing to say. Because with thank you and with forgive me, and I forgive you, there's sort of a weight from the past you can alleviate or acknowledge. And the way I think about I love you is that you are preparing someone what is coming. Preparing someone for the world that they're going to be continually moving into. Because to go out into a world that is going to hurt you and disappoint you, a world in which your choices will not always be right, in which other people are maybe not going to care very much about you or your opinion or your dreams. But if you know that somebody loves you, someone holds you in a regard that is not dependent on your abilities, not dependent on your deserving. Because if you're like trying to figure out does somebody deserve my love, is it really love? You love someone for their own sake. Just because. And it transforms. And so when we say I love you, we are like you ever see the movie Crash? There's just a rough, right?
I started at 8 in the morning to watch that. Come on. Not an easy day. Yes.
There was a man, who was a locksmith. You remember the guy who was a locksmith?
Oh, yes, yes,
Right.
yes.
So there's a locksmith and he lives in a bad neighborhood. And his daughter worried about him because he also was going out, right, in sort of dangerous places. And, you know, what to try to soothe her, he gives her his bulletproof cloak. And so he pantomimes taking this invisible cape off, putting it on so she won't get afraid. So that she can go through the world without fear. Because he knows she's still vulnerable. You cannot protect the people you love from the world. But he loves her, and so he gives her this gift. And it almost becomes the worst part of that movie. Because one of the buildings that he works on as a locksmith is a shop. The store owner blames this guy for break-ins at his shop. And in a fit of rage, takes his gun to go shoot the locksmith. Thank God his daughter has loaded this thing up with blanks. He goes to the house. And the guy's getting out of his work van, sees him coming, sees the gun come on, and the little girl panics. And she's like, oh my gosh, my dad doesn't have his bulletproof cape. So she runs out and jumps in front of him and grabs hold of his neck. When the shot owner starts firing. And if I remember it correctly, maybe it's just the way I saw it, they cut the sound. All you see is this man with his little girl in his arms and starts screaming. And then he looks and she's fine. And then the shop owner is paralyzed. He's like, there was an angel. It's the only explanation. So I love you is a dangerous thing to say. Because if you love someone, for the rest of your life, your heart is going to be walking around outside your chest. Exquisitely vulnerable. And you can't undo it. But the gift you give to someone, by telling them that that's true, it makes the world a livable place. And then you come to the last conversation that you have. Because when you love somebody, you know that what you have really signed up for is grief. Because who in this room has not lost someone that they loved? And who in this room is not aware that you are going to leave behind people who love you? So when we get to the final conversation, goodbye. What is goodbye? That sounds like a hard one, right? 'Cause all you're doing is naming the separation. Why do we say goodbye? Why do we say goodbye? And it's not like the movie Friday where they want Felicia to leave, like, bye, Felicia. Goodbye.
I think it's acknowledging that that time has come. We will not be seen.
Why put yourself through that?
It's the person who needs to go, facing them from their burdens, from their pain. I really understand. That's the need.
Yeah, there's a permission.
You can leave, just speak about that.
But there's no way Barb's gonna be able to hear that, but we're doing our best. How about for those of us who are saying goodbye? What if you're the one laying there? And I'm sure some of you have sat right with somebody who wanted to say goodbyes. You remember what did they tell you anything about why they did that? In my experience, having a goodbye conversation is particularly valuable because it gives us an occasion to have the other ones too. If you have something you haven't said yet, and you're there to say goodbye, finality there, knowing that this episode of the story is ending. For those of us who live in Christ, we don't breathe as others do who have no hope. This episode is done. And so if you haven't said I love you, when you're saying goodbye, you have no reason not to say it. You haven't said I forgive you. What good would it do to hang on to that at this point? You haven't asked for forgiveness. Really want this person to not know that you regret what you did to them, failed to do for them. Goodbye is a wonderful occasion. Does goodbye have to be a one-time conversation? And there are a lot of knowing looks around there. Said a lot of goodbyes. Anybody have a story about a goodbye they're willing to share?
I guess I think we use goodbye a lot as a family coming and going, and to me, goodbye means till we meet again. And sometimes, as I can remember kids coming and going,
Mhm.
you know, going out to school or something. Goodbye means Okay, Mom, I've got everything now. I'm on my way. This is my last trip in the house. So sometimes it doesn't mean it's even gonna be a long time between. But that's, to me, that's what it means. Again.
Mhm.
Be together again.
What about folks who have a hard time saying goodbye? Do you have any experience with that, anyone? People don't like saying goodbye, they'll just disappear from gathering?
His brother.
Yeah. Talk about it.
All of a sudden, big family, it might be Christmas, it might be Thanksgiving, a big family gathering. And then all of a sudden you realize, oh, where did we go? They just left, didn't like saying goodbye.
You ever talk to them about that?
No,
Curious about it?
I should, but no.
You might learn something, you know?
My oldest son is the epitome of what's called the Minnesota goodbye. He hates saying goodbye, and his oldest daughter is the same way. And he'll say, well, we've got to go. And then it's 45 minutes later, and they'll pack me up, getting ready to go. He just cannot, he hates walking out that door and having everything end. So, and I find his daughter inherited that, so. So my husband, who has, he always went, goodbye, it's over, and he'd go. He gets so impatient sometimes. He just finally walk away, just say goodbye, and he'd go and sit down. Yeah, he was Minnesota goodbye all over.
I've heard every different cultural thing attached to this such and such goodbye.
Every state has one, I'm sure.
State, every ethnicity.
Scandinavian.
Long goodbye,
I mean, it's a counterpoint to the no goodbye.
exactly.
They're sort of opposite sides of a coin. Where's the discomfort? The discomfort is in the parting, right? And so you either cling to it, like you can feel the anxiety in you about, oh, I'm gonna be gone now, and really drag out this moment of connection. Or saying, I don't want this experience. I don't want to feel that separation. I don't want to name it out loud. I don't want to deal with it. So I'm gonna just ignore it. But it actually takes a lot of work to leave places without saying goodbye. You gotta be watching everybody, make sure no one's watching you.
You hear that you're saying goodbye, especially family gatherings and, like you're making your rounds and then you gotta go. It's
Yeah,
okay, I'm saying goodbye for 40 minutes. I gotta head out the door.
right.
And then someone says, oh, she didn't even tell me she was leaving. I'm like, okay, I tried everybody. Yeah, and so then it's easier just to say, okay, see ya, bye, everybody, and out the door.
I know probably most everybody here has lost at least one parent or a grandparent. And you all know my mom died just, I don't know, a couple months ago, and my dad died 2 years ago, and we just have enjoyed as a sibling group observing their different kind of departure. The hospice calls us for my dad, your dad is on the way, and we had been keeping vigil with him anyway, just keeping him company. But man, he resisted that departure. He was supposed to be exiting today, and 5 days later, I think I called him, come visit my dad. He just wouldn't go. And I have just thought about this so much. I wonder why he lost his dad when he was 14. So he had some unresolved grief stuff. Maybe that was it. He didn't want to leave my mom, I think. They had such a lovely marriage. Maybe that was it. But it was hard. He could not. And how many times we all said, Dad, it's okay. We're gonna take care of Mom. You get to go. But he would not go. And then my mother, on the other hand, very sweet, soft personality, always thoughtful to everybody all the time. Always that was first for her. And when her time came, it was just kind of she took everybody's hand and took her last breath, and it was so easy for her. Maybe because she was going to die. maybe, I don't know.
I mean, she'd been saying goodbye to people for about a year and a half. Though.
Yeah.
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 Can you, from having witnessed that, because you and Kathy took such good care of her, with her a lot, what did you learn from watching your parents say goodbye in their different ways?
Well, for one thing, I don't think you can be different than who you are,
Mm.
right? You know, like in regard to my dad. I think to just be as genuine as you can be. That was what I observed with mom, and I think dad was not able to really identify even what was the barrier for him.
Mhm.
But my mom they both were of very strong faith. They both have that. And they were, I mean, they never sat beside each other without holding hands, ever. It made me sick. Okay, I'll never be that good a wife. Thank you, Mom.
Oh, you're young yet.
I don't know, I think just being genuine and my mom did not have trouble talking about her departure, maybe because she was a nurse and she was the director of a long-term care facility. She sat with many people who were departing and mentored many families on that path. So maybe she was prepared for it. I really don't know what to say about that, except that they left true to their personalities. Like with dad, we didn't dare get close enough because the arm's gonna maybe wing. And Sophia was the only person that he took her little face and gave her a goodbye. So no understanding why. But I'm sure most of you have, you know, had a family member, an older person, particularly, I know John did. I was with him on the day his grandma passed away.
Yeah, another really good one. I wish he was here to tell the story, but he's probably golfing. So my dad was with his grandpa when he died. He would have been 98 at the time. And Pop was working up here in St. Cloud and he lived in Litchfield. And so grandpa was at the Meeker Manor, is what it's called now. And I forget who their pastor was at that time, but called up to the office and my dad drove down to Litchfield and went and sat with his grandpa. And they read and they prayed and he said that after I think it was after the commendation, he sat up, and then went back down to the dead. But they were saying goodbye for quite a while. I'm gonna have to gather myself for a moment, so someone else can do that story.
I don't think you can, or at least for myself, I don't know if you could really script that goodbye. I mean, both my parents, I was with both my parents, they ironically died in the same nursing home, but about 15 years apart. My mother died fairly young and my dad lived into his mid-90s. In the end, both died of pneumonia, but in totally different circumstances. My mother died with full dementia. My dad, I don't think he ever forgot it, a day in his life, you know, and was very active right till the end. But I, you know, and I wasn't with them when they died, but I was with them within 24 hours of their death and had that private moment with my mother and more, there were other people, I think, were all my last goodbyes to my dad, but there were people of, you know, long time faith and whatever it is, it is. I mean, I don't remember exactly, you know, I do remember a lot of the details of my last moments with my mother, you know, and like I said, I don't think you can script it. It's just, for me, you know, sharing the faith that they instilled in me.
Are there things we can do to help the people we love get ready to say goodbye to us or get ready for us to say goodbye to them?
I remember my mother, just lingering up, I think my dad and my mom, and my husband, all were pretty much comatose as they died, but my mom was to the point. Actually, she was the last of the three, but she just kind of decided she was done. She's not, she don't want to eat. And we said to her, Mom, do you want to go be with Daddy? And we think that she shook her head, yes. And so we didn't push her. We asked her if she wanted to eat. We'd help her eat. If she didn't want it, it's okay. And that's the way she went. But she was never verbally responsive. She could kind of talk to her, you with her eyes or made eye contact, but she didn't even make an effort to talk, but she kind of moved her head a little bit. She just decided all of a sudden. And she was a lady that loved to eat. She loved to have, in the nursing home, she loved when they bring her all this food. But she loved leaving her outside to see the ducks and give her a ride. But then all of a sudden there was one day, no. We said, you want to ride? No. Nothing. And so we just said, Mom, do you want to be with Daddy? And we think she shook her head. Yeah. So we didn't push her. We just loved her. Asked her if she wanted it, if she didn't. How did we'd say goodbye to her each time we left. We didn't know if she was gonna be there when we came back or not. We didn't sit with her the whole time overnight or anything like that. We didn't know how long. Being in the nursing home, it is amazing how long people can lay in all of you if you long. I think we had one person that went 2 weeks without eating. And how this, maybe they were a bigger person, maybe, I don't know, I just remembered. It was like, how does this person keep going? No intake whatsoever, wanted to die. But it happens in God's own time, I think.
I think to prepare your family, it's like having the advance directive that you leave with your doctor's office. I don't know if you're supposed to copy your church or not on that. But just to let them know what your final wishes are and how to say goodbye. Come and hold my hand, or come and sing a song, or read a poem or something like that. Give them instructions, I guess.
Give them permission.
Permission.
Paula, do you find in your work that having instructions on hand, someone's prepared, makes a difference in the goodbye saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not perfect, but I think having the conversation so that, it's pretty typical at the end of life that people lose the capacity to be able to make their own decisions. And then we're relying on their usually family or close loved ones to help us make decisions. So the more someone knows about what you do or don't want, it's really a gift. To your family to not have to guess and to feel like you're just carrying out what somebody already said.
In your work, what have you seen that would be patterns to avoid or warning signs to be curious, cautious of? And then I'll ask you the good side of that after.
My least favorite thing for someone to advise their family is that they never, ever, 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 under any circumstance, want to be in a nursing home. Because, right, a lot of people will say that they'd like to be fully functional, operating at 100% of capacity, and then just suddenly die.
Like Moses.
Which is like, it's great for the person. It's kind of rough on everyone around them because they can't say goodbye. But that's not really how things go in the United States so often in the year 2025. So.
Even Jim Page,
I was just gonna ask you if we can talk about that,
Yeah.
if that's revealing.
it was in the public,
Okay,
and so we don't need to share things that we shouldn't share, but that's not private, right? Jim Page had an aneurysm here at church. He and Rita had already discussed not wanting to be hooked up to a bunch of tubes. He ended up hooked up into some tubes in the ambulance. So that prolonged his death. But his sons, his daughters-in-law, his grandchildren were able to come and say goodbye to him. He wasn't speaking anymore at that point.
But it made it so easy for Rita, even when they were leaving our building. She was, there were like 3 or 4 of us there. She was telling us he doesn't want any intervention. She was like so plain about it.
Yeah.
And he was even saying, I'm stroking.
Yeah, not everybody's gonna be as collected as Reed Page.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and so was he
Up until he couldn't communicate.
up until the end. Yeah.
What do you see in your, again, this is a work thing, but you're the expert with a lot of this, so I'm just gonna bug it.
Mhm.
What do you see as the sort of common factors that make it smoother and easier for people to be ready to say goodbye, either to their loved ones as they're dying or to their loved one who is dying? What would be the groundwork in advance?
Well, I mean,
You
I feel like you planted me here, but,
Mhm. Every week I have a
These
plan.
conversations, right?
Yeah.
Like, having all these I mean, it's when people are holding vigil and they don't know what to do, this is what I talk to them about doing these 4 things that matter most. Yeah, it's profound. And it's, I guess what I was thinking about is sure that this is answering your question, but one of the saddest things that I've been through lately was this woman who's very estranged from her entire family. And she had a paid PCA caregiver who had no idea what she wanted or not either. And the daughters came and were able to help make decisions, but no one, she was comatose. So I don't really know what she knew, if she knew any of us were there anyways, but no one held vigil for her. And I didn't even know what to say when I rounded because, sometimes I'll say you are really loved, but she wasn't.
Mhm.
And family was clear that she didn't have a faith or spirituality that would import to her. So me saying Jesus loves you felt like that was my issue and not hers, and I didn't feel like I could do that. Well, because as a physician, I don't think I can, push my faith on other people. I mean, I think a chaplain can do that, probably a good conscience, but I can't.
Mhm.
I didn't know what to say to her. It was one of the saddest things that. So I don't know. Like, how do you not burn so many bridges?
I wish the hospice people had said to me and my brother, you might just want to hang with him tonight. We think the end is close. We went and went to the apartment with my mother and got the call at 4 a.m. that he had passed. And I don't know if he was waiting for nobody to be around or if we had, in hindsight, I wish one of us had stayed with him. And then with my mother, she passed away unexpectedly because she was just sick, not dying. And I wish the nursing staff had said, you might want to just hang out with her tonight and just see how she does in the night, because she was coughing and she's very weak. And, I say to my sister, I wish I would have stayed. I wish I would have stayed with her.
Okay, we're not that good at predicting. I mean, we try, like, we really do try, but we're not that good at predicting.
Yeah.
And I do think sometimes people die the way they live, and so there are very private people whose family holds vigil, and they're like there every hour.
Yeah.
And then they're like passing the threshold so someone can go use the bathroom,
Yeah.
and that's when they die. Like, I think we have no control over that, like, people just.
And I think you don't wanna, I mean, it's easy, but you don't wanna second guess yourself. Like with my dad, I knew my dad's days were, I mean, I knew he was close, but I just wasn't, I mean, it was 120 miles away in the little town of Wisconsin. And so my plan was when I came home, I'm gonna be home that night and then I'm gonna gather up some stuff. And then I'll go back and I'll just be there till he passes. But, you know, what happened was, you know, he died in that interim period. And, but I still had a good goodbye and I don't, you know, I just don't think, you know, I mean, you just never know. And I think you might plan your goodbye, but like I said, it's not scripted and the goodbye that you think maybe you'd like to have with your loved one, you may not have. So I just think, yeah, you don't wanna beat yourself up about that too much. I mean,
You're said and done.
yeah, it is easier said than done. There's, yeah.
But thank you for that, Dennis.
Yeah, I had a similar situation with both my parents, and I think, you know, this is probably another topic for another session. Is how do you work through your grief if you didn't get that goodbye? You know, it's different. And I guess now I would, you know, for people who haven't lost their parents yet, to say those goodbyes, you know, my parents certainly know I love them, but to have them go suddenly, that was tough.
Right. I think sometimes, at least for me with my mother, I had education. And I know what it's like. She was on hospice and lived with us. But the night before she died, we were with her. She didn't want to be alone. And there were 3 of us that were holding her when she died. So it was wonderful. But the night before she was very agitated and she'd call me out and, you know, she said things that didn't make sense. And I was just, you know, I was getting to the point like, what is wrong? You know, and it didn't even, all my education never kicked in that, oh,
Yeah.
they can get very agitated when, you know, before they die. It never even clued, you know, give me a clue until after she was gone. I'm like, oh, that's why she was so agitated probably. But she went in peace because there were 3 of us that were there, that were holding her when she died. And that's what she wanted. She didn't want to be alone. So, but all the education, all the stuff, I think of people that I've met that have been nurses or doctors, and when it's their family member, sometimes it just leaves you. And you just do what comes best at the time. And you know, God will take care of both of you. So.
It's on the age of the person too. Brianna had to go into the hospital for her diabetes. You know, very concerned, but also that I had worked with somebody else that his other, well, like my other daughter Samantha has asthma. And my coworker, his daughter died. But she was with some friends and people actually died who worked for the asthma. So. It's a younger person, I think. Like with my dad, he wanted to go 2 years ago because of his Parkinson's, without to be a burden on us. He loved mom, and that was every time. Saw each other, they didn't hands all the time, but I had a picture where last might have been last Easter or something. There's a picture of mom and dad are holding their hands, and my mom had actually, it would be a really nice picture of them, and she had some really bad. That was healing.
What dear.
You know, they're tearing walls apart today.
Probably our cue, or they're getting ready for Jen's, you know.
Yeah, where nobody's ready to say goodbye.
Right.
It feels like such an interruption.
Even if you know that they're hurting, but because they're younger than.
So we've gone over our usually allotted time, but we also started a little bit late.
Yeah.
So. I don't think we have adult ed scheduled until the end of the thing, don't we?
Well, the Sunday.
Jill is gonna be after Easter, right?
Jill and the rest of the committee members to just give an update, answer questions, that sort of thing. And then there's one more.
Yep.
That Chris is gonna do.
That's the habitat, especially especially about the bike ride or just habitat in general.
It's both. It'll be an update on habitat, and then Jean Boyce, he's a member of the resurrection. It's gonna talk about the ride.
And a bowl of soup.
Yeah, Jean's by that.
Oh, we see that. Did you, you know,
I think that, just
said he had
knowing what week it is,
kind of played back with him and then
I think we should all do a little.
read it kind of, you know, within a couple minutes and what he want always for me. Like that's and then Sue said, Danny, go in.
Uh, Pick one of them. One of the four, because we don't need to say goodbye right now, do we? Getting ready to say goodbye if it happens. So pick one of our 4 weeks. Thank you. Please forgive me. I forgive you. I love you. And pick one easy, one hard person to have one of those conversations. One hard, one easy one. Huh?
This feels like homework.
This is homework.
He said, giving you homework.
I don't think, yes.
Yeah, well, because all these things are important. I mean, and goodbye is a big one. Remember, Jesus spent 3 chapters of John's gospel saying goodbye to his disciples. 3 chapters out of 21. 20. Not good enough. It's a lot of goodbye. 2 people. Have one hard one, one easy one. Pick one of those conversations. And then either tell me or Pastor Tim about it. Be an email, could just call us up. That's the kind of thing we always have time for, and I promise you, you will not regret it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Flashback, it's really. Say.
I was there.